The joy that you find here you borrow. You cannot keep it long, it seems. But gigolo and gigolette still sing a song and dance along the boulevard of broken dreams.
Everyone who lived through the Great Depression has a story to tell. Stay with us as ordinary people recall extraordinary times in Pennsylvania. In the early months of 1929, most Pennsylvanians believed that the booming prosperity of the 20s not only would continue, but would grow. Had not the new president, Herbert Hoover, proclaimed that we were nearer the final triumph over poverty than ever before? Such easy confidence vanished after October 29, 1929, Black Tuesday, the day the stock market crashed.
It came so sudden. As the day wore on, it kept getting worse and worse, and before the end of the day, the men that had their money invested were so disgusted and discouraged that some of them ran out and jumped out the windows and committed suicide. And from that moment on, then it spread.
Got up in the morning, it was just everywhere. Everybody was just wild. They were so upset. But as far as the situation, I didn't know too much about it. I knew I was in it, and I knew that everything had gone haywire.
Shortly after the crash, Gloria Ann Meyers took a telephone message from her employer's stockbroker.
I took that message and I gave it to Dr. Zimmerman, and he came in. And he went to the phone, and he answered the phone, and and his office was on the first floor. And I was up on the second floor when I gave him the message. And he came out of that room, and that man had chestnut brown hair. And he turned snow white.
The stock market crash was the first act of a national drama that was to last more than a decade. But its impact was not felt immediately by all people or in all parts of the state.
I remember the stock market crash. I remember mostly how glad I was that I wasn't rich, so I would lose a lot of money in the stock market. I was just a young guy starting out in life, and I didn't have any money to buy stocks with, and at the time I was very glad.
Well, the crash that took place in October 1929 did not affect the local area until over a year later. This is interesting. Of course, people lost money in the stock market, their belongings, but by December 1930, times had started to get bad. Now, we had an industrial area around Bellefonte, and this is when the layoffs, the unemployment began, and they were reduced to putting a barrel on the diamond in front of the courthouse that when people walked by, they pitched their pennies into the barrel. And this is how they began to raise money. This was all self-help, nothing coming out of the state.
I remember in Center Hall, the bank closed in 1929, 1930. A large check come in, there wasn't any money for it, so they closed the bank. And we then knew we were in a depression.
A copy of the program you've just seen can be purchased through Penn State Media Sales at mediasales.psu.edu or by calling 800-770-2111.